What's up, everybody? Welcome back to our Buying Podcast. Today, we got a lot of things to talk about. First, it seems like this trade war has gone global.
Yeah, Xi Jinping was like, let me jump in and start negotiating as well.
Now it seems like this thing is China, Canada, US, and who knows, it can change tomorrow. Then we got Canada's game plan on how they want to handle these tariffs.
I'm so over Jagmeet, bro.
You and everybody else. We'll talk about Poilievre, what he said, and what the Liberals have planned. Next, we got American podcaster PBD went on a little bit of a rant on Poilievre.
Yeah, I don't know if I completely disagree with the guy.
Yeah, he made a little bit of sense, a little bit of hate, right?
A little bit.
And then we'll talk a little bit of basketball, and I personally think the Lakers are going to win it all this year.
I don't know about that, but that Luka trade is making Pelinka look like a genius right now.
Yeah, it looks like it was worth it. We'll also talk about Stephen A. and LeBron had a little bit of a kerfuffle.
Yeah.
Got a little weird, right?
Yeah.
And after all that, Sophia, what do we have for off topic?
So today we'll talk about Meghan Markle, South Korea, Gene Hackman, and a couple other stories.
And stay tuned for the question segment at the end.
We'll give you our thoughts and opinions on all of that. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And go follow us on Instagram and TikTok at TheBiringPodcast. So let's start with this global trade war. And it seems like Xi is taking a page out of Donald Trump's book.
Yeah.
And here's a clip of the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson basically saying that they're ready for all the smoke. However, if the U.S. harbors ulterior motives and insists trade war or any other kind of war, China will play along to the end. We urge the U.S. to abandon its bullying stance and return to the right track of dialogue and cooperation as soon as possible. Yeah, I mean, I think that was just a little bit of that whole segment. We don't want to play the whole thing, obviously, because it's in Chinese and our listeners aren't going to understand all the words. But yeah, it seems like China is taking this time to show that they're also going to partake in this trade war.
For sure. Trump wanted to go after everyone. Now they're going to retaliate, obviously, right? What do you expect them to do? Just sit idly by?
Yeah, I think China said that they're going to impose tariffs on Canada. I think it starts on March 20th.
Yeah.
And those tariffs include 100% tariff on Canadian canola oil.
Yeah.
They also are doing a 25% tariff on pork and aquatic, that's seafood. And then I think some people are like, why is this even a big deal? Because outside of the US, China is Canada's second largest trading partner, right?
Yeah.
So now you're going to start to get screwed both ways.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And then even if you look at how much we export, I think Canada exports around $67.5 billion worth of goods to China in 2024 alone. And Canada's also, I don't know if you guys knew this, we're the largest producer of canola oil. Oh. And half of that goes to China.
In the world?
Yeah, in the world.
Oh, damn.
Right? So then if you look at that and you're already getting slapped with tariffs, right? From US, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at, and all of that comes from the prairies, right?
Yeah.
So Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, right?
Yeah.
So if they're already getting hit with this oil stuff, and now you're going to rapeseed oil, canola oil, all of that's going to China, you're going to start getting tariffs both ways.
Yeah.
Alberta's going to start struggling, right? It could get kind of messy, especially for them, right? And I feel like ultimately China is just like in this mindset where they feel that they can either do a couple of things. They're either going to push Canada to try to, like, the whole reason why they were doing this thing was because of they're saying that they're retaliating against Canada's 100% EV tariffs, right? Plus, I think they have like 25% against aluminum and steel, which they did with Biden. I think they were negotiating in August of last year, and then they finally imposed them in October. And they're saying they're retaliating against all of that, right? And essentially what they're saying is that any country that's going to go along with the US, right? And that's what he was implying there. There's also a whole bunch of articles where if I pulled quotes, it would have been too many. Yeah. But basically what they say is like, if you're going to support whatever the US does and just run with them and try to bully us, then we're going to respond to anyone who's siding with the US in that way, right? So they're telling Canada, pick a side.
For sure.
And don't you think that wasn't like the right move of Canada, especially against the EVs?
What do you mean with the Chinese EVs?
Yeah.
in hindsight, I don't know. Canada's in a weird position right now, right?
It's because like we're dealing with so much beef and stuff from the US,
Yeah.
right? And it's like they have Tesla. So if we like accepted these Chinese EVs and we could have just like put Tesla out of the market, because aren't they apparently even better?
Yeah, I mean, I think these EVs are definitely comparable to Teslas, right?
Yeah.
And
Aren't some people saying, like, I've seen a bunch of videos, people saying they're even better.
It's because they're way more cost effective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
way
I think
cheaper.
they're cheaper.
Yeah.
Right. And I think to your point, I've even seen some YouTubers online who are like car guys who are saying that these are actually better than Teslas. The tech's better, they look better, they're cheaper.
It seems better.
Right. But again, like it's gonna come down to if Canada wants to make a choice, right? And what choice they want to make, right?
Like choice in terms of who they're siding with?
Yeah. Right. Which is easy to say right now.
For sure.
Right. Because I think it's just one way that everyone's kind of looking at things. China's basically taking this time to push Canada and trying to tell them, hey, listen, you guys are going to align yourself with the US. This could be a little bit dangerous.
Yeah.
Right. And the way that they're doing it before, they've always said that we're willing to negotiate with trade. We're willing to come to the table. And Canada was always just like on the back burner. I think in 2018 or so at one point.
Yeah, they've been saying it for a while.
There were some trade talks going on right now. I think they're taking the opportunity to do two things. One, reset it right before elections, take any previous deals basically off the table. If you're doing tariffs against each other, then there's no trade deal.
Yeah.
Right. So if you take them off the table, the new administration comes in and then they, pick what the hell works for them. But I think the second thing they're doing is just pushing Canada. They're like, if you don't want to get taxed on rapeseed oil, canola oil, then pick up that, EV tariff.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. It's like, I feel like the world has worked so hard to develop this global economy for like decades. And now Trump's just, look what he's doing to it overnight, right? It's potentially destroying it.
Okay. Let's switch to the U.S. and here's a clip of Trump addressing Congress about the
If you
tariffs.
don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one. Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries. On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. No, you're not. Oh. and look where Biden took us. Very low, the lowest we've
Oh
ever.
my God.
He's always throwing Biden and Obama.
He never misses an opportunity to talk smack.
It's still, but it is impressive that a 78-year-old he's just
He has that
Yeah.
much weight, right?
like ready for
Yeah.
this, right? Like that's like ingrained in his mind.
yeah.
For sure.
That's what I mean. Like, I just feel like the U.S. Trump isn't making us feel like we're an ally. So now, like, we're supposed to be allies with them still. Like, I get it. Like, it's not like we're going to be allies with China
Yeah.
more than the U.S.
Yeah.
But then I'm just like, you're going to tariff them. They're going to tariff us by, like, China seems like they want war or something. The way that the guy was talking. He's like, by any means necessary.
It's the way Trump is too, and he went about it, right? He's like, anybody who retaliates, we're going to increase the tariffs. People aren't going to stand idly by and just let you tariff
Bully.
them like bully. They literally said that in the first clip.
Yeah.
He was saying, he's like, I advise them to reverse their bullying stance.
Was
that
this
they're taking.
the one he was talking to Senate? Was that the one where everyone had signs against
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
That's the
He
same
He was in
one.
Congress, yeah.
Yeah, it's in Congress. This is his first initial address to Congress.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think he broke a record. It was like 2 hours long.
I mean, he can go on in rallies for like hours, right?
I mean, that thing was
Yeah.
crazy. It was like reality TV.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when it comes to tariffs, what exactly did the U.S.?
So they're imposing a blanket tariff, like 25%, a retaliatory tariff. That's going to be on the April the 2nd. And outside of that, there's steel and aluminum already in place. Autos paused for a month. And now he's saying he's going to impose another tariff on dairy and lumber. Reciprocal tariffs are coming. He's like, you never know, but he said as soon as tomorrow.
Yeah, he does this on again, off again thing, right? And then as for Canada, I think we've already seen that Doug Ford took the booze off the shelf, right, the American booze, and then he's planning on moving ahead with the electricity, the tax on U.S. electricity. And he said that even if Trump pauses tariffs or not, he's moving ahead with that, right?
Yeah.
And then I feel like there's also a few other things, like Manitoba is also pulling American booze off the shelf, and BC is considering having a toll for American trucks that go through BC to Alaska.
Oh, yeah, right.
They're considering it. I don't know. It's a lot going on there, right?
For sure. Even these dairy, the softwood lumber especially, we all know about that. I think domestic production is $23 billion worth. So he knows where to hit us. Even the unprocessed milk, they make $7 billion of it. We don't really import any of this. It's all made in-house. Where are we exporting it? To the States. But softwood lumber for sure. Dairy not so much, but it's just he's trying to make money where he can there, right?
Okay, to me, I feel like this whole thing is getting a little crazy, and what basically is happening here is like every country is saying, if you're going to tariff us, we're going to tariff you back.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And you can call it retaliatory, you can call it reciprocal, you can call it whatever you want, right? That's essentially what they're doing, right? So if every country is going to tariff your tariff, right? Because if you tariff, they tariff, you tariff, they tariff, then who's really winning?
Yeah.
Nobody, right? And the consumer is going to get pinched in the end.
This is what Trump wants?
No, I think his plan was to make it so the US makes money. I don't think he thought that these countries were going to respond in the way that they're responding, right? And that's why he's like, a little hiccup, but we're going to get past it, right? But I think if this thing doesn't work, it's going to be bad for his presidency.
For sure.
Right? But if you're like, for what we were talking about earlier, right? Like if you're talking about Chinese EVs and you're talking about, China and everything that's going on there, I think Canada's got to make a choice. You either side with China, Europe, and you're going to go with Starmer, and you're going to go to Macron in France, and you're going to strengthen your EU, and you're going to go that way, and then be like, hey, China, we're going to lift the EV tariff, and that's what we're deciding to do. Or I feel like the other thing that maybe consider actually negotiating with the US, right? Instead of like being like Trump's a villain, right?
Yeah.
Japan negotiated their deal. I think they upped their $780 some odd billion that they were investing in the future. They upped it to $1 trillion. Right? So they're not really getting tariffed, right? Taiwan came in and TSMC said that there's $100 billion deals, and that's in I think it's to boost US chip plants. Right. So they did that. Both those countries aren't getting tariffed, right? And then when it comes to Canada, all we've done is that they said that they're going to tariff us. So now we're angry. So now we're saying we're going to tariff you right back.
There's
and I
no
feel
negotiating.
I feel like what threw everything off there was his 51st state crap. Right. As soon as he said that, we were like, we're out.
But don't you think so many people kept going to the States to try to talk to him, to try to negotiate, and he wasn't?
No, I think, I think Canadian politicians are a little bit naive in the sense that it was never about the border. It was never about fentanyl. It was never about migrants. It's about money. It's always been about money. Right. And I feel like they keep saying that, look, we're securing the border. Whether it was Danielle Smith, she's like, no, let's secure the border first. The Scott Moe premier of Saskatchewan, same sort of sentiment, right? Even Quebec was saying the same thing. Even Ontario started off that way, right? And now Doug Ford's like, I'm frustrated. I'm going to take it right now. He's just going all in, right?
Like, I feel like it was more of they never negotiated. They just said, please don't do this. Just don't do this. Don't hit us with tariffs. We're going to hit you back. It was just that they never negotiated a deal. Right?
Yeah, so then if you look at Japan, you look at Taiwan, they went and they said that they're investing in the States, right? And money that they were going to do anyways, right? Like they were planning to invest around $800 billion. They upped that to $1 trillion over the future, right? And Trump's like, that's good. No tariffs, right? And Taiwan's doing the same thing, right? Meanwhile, in Canada, I feel like you got to look at it that way. If you're a smart politician, you got to look at it like you can't just be like, they're the bad guy. They annoyed us. And now I'm going to react like a baby and get very mad that they did it. So now we're angry, right? Like what's better for the country financially, right? Like, should you go with China? Like, sit down and do the numbers. They have budgeting committees. They have like we pay these people our tax dollars to go through all of this, right? You think it's better off that you go to China and you go through Europe and you're like, okay, this is going to save us money building these pipelines. I'm not saying stop being self-sufficient. while you're doing that, negotiate a deal with the US that's more so aligned with like, hey, listen, we're going to invest something in the US, right? And because we're going to do that, obviously we depend on you guys for 70% of our exports. So it makes sense for our economy, right, to continue that trade deal. What can we do on the table that makes you a little bit happy? We take a little bit less, and let's keep this thing moving.
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
And I feel like a part of that would be like in military, for example. A lot of Canadians feel like we should make our military stronger.
For sure. Yeah.
Right? Everyone's always talking about it. When it comes to conventional warfare, Canada's got not exactly a military that anyone respects. Right.
For sure.
And I feel like when it comes to Europe, it's not like their militaries are, I don't know, phenomenal. Right. It's just that they have nukes.
Yeah.
Right. So a country with nukes always has that last second resort. Like, you
got to pay attention.
Yeah. You can't just do whatever you want. It's
Yeah.
a threat.
Yeah.
But like if you're going to threaten them with something, they have nukes. Right.
Yeah.
And nobody, like people don't even
I
threaten.
agree with what you're saying, like that Canada's mad, so they're saying all this like shit. But I think like big picture, they understand like locationally based, like we have to side with the US.
Yeah.
How are we going to go all around and try to do all stuff when the US is right there? Imagine we're a trade war with them. Imagine a real war with them.
Yeah.
No,
Demolish us.
okay, a real war isn't going to happen, but like strengthening military makes sense because especially in today's day and age with this protectionist mindset,
Yeah.
you need other countries to respect you, right? They're
sure.
only going to respect you if you have a military.
Yeah.
And Canada's been up to this point relying only on the US,
Yeah.
right? So if you strengthen your military, maybe the US would be like, okay, it's like two birds, one stone kind of thing.
Other than Pierre Poilievre, who else is talking about the military?
Now they're all kind of talking about it, but ironically, they just on the weekend, they announced an $8 billion deal to get, I think it was 3 destroyers for the Canadian Navy. And these were with, I feel like those ships are supposed to be built in UK and they're not built in US. Right?
Yeah.
And instead of bragging about that and saying that, like, this is something that we've done. Look, hey, Trump wanted us to increase our NATO presence, right? So now we are upping the ante here and we're improving our military. Instead of any of that, what do they get? They slowly slide this thing in that these ships are being built in the UK and it's not something that they're doing in the States, obviously.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So you do shit like this and it's just like, what the hell are these guys doing to me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you don't think that Trump's going to realize that eventually it's going to come to light, right? And he's going to see what you're trying to do. But I don't disagree with you. Bolstering the military is a great way to go about. You think this happens?
What?
If we have a strong military, you think it happens the same way that it's happening right now?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
If we have a strong military base, I don't think he comes in and because he's leveraging it against us because he knows that he can.
Well, he's leveraging 2 things. 1, our dependence on the U.S., right?
Yeah.
And 2, military.
Yeah.
Right? He's saying those are his 2 things, right? Everything else he says is just ways for him to, the same way he got around NAFTA his first presidency, right?
Yeah.
By saying that, there's a crisis, emergency going on. And that's how you get around these trade deals to do whatever you want with tariffs, right?
For sure.
So it's the same thing he's doing now, right? And I'm not like advocating for Trump, but at the end of the day, like Sokfir was saying before, like, if you're going to go around and lift Chinese EV tariffs, which I've said before, like maybe we should look into it. But I'm kind of coming around to this, like if Trump came on the way that he did, instead of being like little babies about it and just getting frustrated, everyone knows Canada's not going to be the 51st state.
For sure.
Right? Like we know that.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. But instead of getting just all caught up in that, just look at the tariffs.
Yeah.
Right. And just look at that and be like, okay, where can we negotiate here? Right. And like I was saying, the military is just one example, right? But I'm not an expert on any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure there's people, you can sit down, you can look at certain sectors and see where you can invest in the US of something that Canada needs also and play it from there.
Yeah.
Right? Renegotiate this USMCA now.
Yeah.
And then get this out of the way. Right.
For sure.
Instead, I think what's happening is that while these elections are going on, Parliament's prorogued. That's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
Liberals announced these 3 destroyers, this $8 billion deal, and those 3 destroyers are going to cost, I think, somewhere around $22 billion, I was reading.
Yeah.
And they announced this on a Saturday while Parliament is prorogued. So nobody's even talking about it. It's a small little press release. They just slid
$22
right
billion,
in there, right?
This guy's throwing around a lot of money at the end here.
I don't know, man. Please like and subscribe, as it really does help the podcast out tremendously. Let's get back to the pod. But let's move on to Canada's game plan and talk about what these guys think the best way to deal with these tariffs are. And here's a clip of Trudeau talking about the impact of the tariff.
Excuse that he's giving for these Paris tariffs today of fentanyl is completely bogus, completely unjustified, completely false. So we actually have to fold back on the one thing he has said repeatedly, that what he wants is to see a total collapse of the Canadian economy, because that'll make it easier to annex us, is the second half of his thought. Now, first of all, that's never going to happen. We will never be the 51st state. But yeah, he can do damage to the Canadian economy, and he's started this morning. But he is rapidly going to find out, as American families are going to find out, that that's going to hurt people on both sides of the border. Americans will lose jobs. Americans will be paying more for groceries, for gas, for cars, for homes. I have been holding out hope that these tariffs were just a clever negotiating ploy that would have the impact that they're having now without even bringing them in over the past weeks, as we've seen order books dry up for Canadian companies from American customers, as we've seen expansion plans in Canada put on hold, as we've seen people choosing to invest in the United States over the past weeks because of the threat of tariffs. But now that he's moved forward with tariffs, we're going to see the real impact of a trade war between our two countries. And that impact will be to hurt American families.
Yeah, so obviously this guy is, that's the one thing they all agree on. Nobody wants to be annexed. Nobody wants to be the 51st state. And he is right about that. There is no real winner in this trade war. Don't you think it's kind of like when you're in school and at the end of the class, that one kid goes, what about the homework? And everyone knows that we were all delaying this, trying to get through the class. And he's just reminding all these other countries, like, what about the tariffs? We can tariff you guys too. We can all tariff each other. And now that's what happens. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to win. If at the end of the day you want more American jobs, right? You want everything to be built in America. Labor is also going to go up for all these countries when they do that, right? So in the end, does it really help? I don't know. In the short term, it's a lot of pain. Why have no politicians ever done this before? Because votes, right?
Well, protectionism was a way that they used to go about things pre-World War II.
Yeah.
Right? Post-World War II was this globalization, right?
Yeah.
People call them globalists.
Yeah.
Right? Where, say, people like to act like the world is one unified country.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
Yeah.
Because different countries have different morals, different values, different ideology on how a country's supposed to be run. We call them democracies. Not all of them are democracies. But I do feel like what he's saying, they like to keep focusing on this annexing Canada crap, right? Which everyone knows it's not real, man. It's never going to happen, right? Those are just talking points, right? At this point, if you're going to keep talking about the tariffs, right? Instead of being like, they said this, so now we're going to say this, right?
Yeah.
Canada's parliament is prorogued.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what the Liberal government is doing. Right. It's prorogued because this guy resigned, but he's still not stepping down. Right. Instead, they're running their leadership race, which should be done anytime now.
Yeah.
Right? And then they should get a new guy in there, right? Mark Carney or
Carney.
Freeland or whatever, right? It's probably Carney, right? But yeah, that until then you wait.
Yeah.
Right. While this is going on, he's acting like he's very angry. Right. We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait to decide Canada's fate. Wouldn't you resume Parliament even if all of this is going on, so your leaders can come in and actually talk about these things, so things could be publicized and the Canadian public can know what the hell is going on, instead of just giving these press conferences and trying to look like you got it all together? I don't know, man. I'm starting to see this thing a lot differently now, and I feel like I'm on the side of like, if you're actually gonna put Canada first,
do it.
Right, do it.
Yeah.
Right. Stop making Trump the enemy and be like, this is what he's doing to us. What have 9 years of liberals done to us?
A whole lot of nothing.
Right.
Did you see Trump posted on his social, whatever he uses, Truth Social? He posted that Trudeau's using this tariff war to stay in power. And I think there's some merit to that. I don't know. this party system that we have here, 5 parties, is starting to feel a lot like 4v1 going on there.
Yeah.
Right? They're all kind of joining forces.
Yeah.
And even now he's saying that me and whoever comes into power will talk about it. We'll discuss the rightful way to resign. And they're all going that we got to deal with this. It's in front of our face.
Yeah.
How about you give the public the right to choose? Don't you need something like in place to fight?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel like if you're like, it's very easy to keep vilifying Trump.
Yeah.
Right. And you're just trying to rally the whole country behind this idea that that's the boogeyman. Right. When in reality, like, have they ever tried to negotiate?
Not to my understanding.
Right. I think all they do is make trips down there. And how can we stop this?
That's it. That was their main focus. How do we stop this?
It's not like, hey, look, okay, you feel like it's being treated unfairly. We think it was fair in the first place. But maybe we could just do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And now nobody has to worry.
For sure.
Right. And instead, you got a bunch of babies who are upset. Right. Like, oh my God, he's coming, the boogeyman. So now we have to do this. And that's what he keeps doing.
Newsflash, he's here.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. Because if you destroy relationships with the US moving forward and you decide to go China and Europe and you go that route.
Yeah.
Right. What are you going to do 4 years from now, 8 years from now, 12 years from now? You don't want to strengthen the US relationship?
For sure.
It makes no sense to me
to
just completely become an enemy of the states because of this tariff war.
Yeah.
I'm not saying just fold and do whatever the hell they're saying, right? I'm saying just think about it logically a little bit. What's going to cost Canadians less jobs, less money, right? It's going to be if you negotiate something with Trump, right? And if you're going to be like, well, Doug Ford was saying, well, we're ready to win it, right? Like, you're not going to win anything by just pulling alcohol off the shelves.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Like, I appreciate the Canadian pride, and I think all of it is nice and cool and is good. You know, Canada's patriotic right now, but if you're going to talk about the money, which is what this whole thing is about, right? When you look at the Liberals, their whole plan was, I think they just launched a plan recently, right? Which is they're relaxing some EI rules and providing a $6 billion business support. It's $6 billion support to businesses.
Oh,
because of these tariffs.
Okay,
right.
Yeah,
and so you look at their whole plan. If you read into it, it's another aid package.
Yeah.
Right. At a time when
the Fed's doing the same. They're relaxing.
Yeah, but it's at a time when I feel like Canada has this massive deficit, right? On Trudeau's way out, he's just announcing all of these things that he's spending on, like legit 2 days. 2-3 days, 4 days of his, leadership left. And he's just announcing these things. They're just, and they're using this as an excuse to even spend more money, right? To me, I feel like tariffs long term, they are going to hurt Canada, but like, right now, it doesn't. Even though certain things have happened, I don't think a tremendous amount of businesses have been impacted yet. These things, when did first tariffs even go into effect? I feel like it was like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it just happened.
Yeah, it's not like
they kept delaying it.
Yeah, and these guys already have a $6 billion aid package ready to go. We're ready to spend money. Right?
Yeah.
Like, why not negotiate first and get this stuff dealt with?
For sure.
They never even tried to negotiate.
Yeah.
Not once.
Yeah, and look into it. Look into the impacts, like you were saying earlier, right? Like, do some studying, see how much it's going to impact you. Why do you think this guy, even when he imposed this recent one, he was just like, there's no room for delays this time. And then he delays it immediately.
Yeah.
Because they're figuring it out on the fly. How much is it going to impact us? Is it going to be pretty bad? Okay, let's just pause on that, figure that one out. We'll figure out autos.
Yeah. But let's just get a outlook on the rest of the leaders and what they had to say. And here's Poilievre on where he stands.
Allow me to address the unjustified tariffs that the president has now partially backed down from. My message to the president is this: knock it off. Stop the chaos. You are hurting your workers, your consumers, and most immediately, destroying trillions of dollars of wealth on your own stock market. You're attacking a cherished friend of the United States, and you are strengthening America's enemies by going after America's friends. Stop tariffing our country and stop the monthly melodrama that is hurting our economies on both sides of the border. If you want American workers to have bigger paychecks and lower prices, then let's do more trade, not less. But if you choose otherwise, we will retaliate. We will fight back, and we will defend ourselves because we will always put Canada first.
Yeah. So this guy, at least he has somewhat of a plan. He's saying that he would rather trade more. So he's willing to negotiate there, right? He wants to open up the pipeline, increase production there on oil so we can become self-reliant somewhat to some extent. He actually has a plan outside of retaliation. Even he said at the end there, we'll retaliate, right? But yeah.
I mean, Canada has to retaliate at the end of the day, right? If this is where it's going to go, right? I'm just saying, open up the negotiating tactics, right? Like, why the hell are you just going to retaliate only? That's the only thing we're doing. We're just retaliating and nothing else.
Yeah.
Right? We're not even going to try to negotiate. And the argument is like, well, we tried to tell them fentanyl the border.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the border.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. Right?
Trudeau did say as much. He's just like, this fentanyl's, we have it under control.
Yeah, we knew that 4 weeks ago when he said that it was a fentanyl problem, right? Like how much, and people just bought into it, right? And it's like all the drugs come from Mexico. They don't go from Canada, right? Like everyone knows that, right?
Yeah.
But like even then, they just keep saying that this is what we're going to do to fix that problem, right? Instead of being like, here, why don't you do this and we'll do this and let's get through these tariffs,
For
right?
sure, yeah.
That seems pretty simple to me. I mean, I don't disagree with even what Trudeau was saying, Poilievre. They're basically saying the same thing, right? Like, we're not going to annex Canada. Nobody's going to annex Canada. And that these tariffs, if somebody brings them, we're going to retaliate.
Yeah.
Right? And since we're talking about everyone, here's Jagmeet Singh, and let's have a look at what he had to say about these tariffs.
Today to a trade war. This is not something that we wanted. It is unwarranted. It is wrong. It's illegal. And we are going to fight back.
I don't think it's illegal.
And Canadians are already showing that defiance. They're standing up for one another. They're showing that they want to buy Canadian. They're boycotting American. An emergency session of Parliament where we do three things. One is we need to put in place supports for workers. Workers are already impacted. We need immediate supports. And I'm calling on EI to be immediately reformed so it is covering enough workers. It's a sufficient amount to cover people's bills, and it's quick. People can get it quick enough so that they can actually come in and support them. Secondly, we need to create good jobs in Canada. And so that build Canadian, buy Canadian plan at the federal level needs to be there so we can build more and create good jobs in this difficult time. And finally, I know while the Parliament doesn't need to be recalled to put in place the retaliatory tariffs, I believe we should send a united message as all leaders and all parties that we stand united together, opposed to these tariffs, and we're going to impose these retaliatory tariffs with a unified voice, denouncing Donald Trump's attack on our country.
You don't have to go into Parliament to do any of that, really. But what is this guy's plan? Increase EI and stimulus for the economy, aka more taxes, right?
Spend more money, right? He just comes up and he's like, time to spend. Guys, let's just spend more money.
He's trying to leverage this situation that we're in for political gain and his party's policies. And it's disgusting. Like, what
Even
the hell
him
are you
saying
doing?
that all the parties need to unify here and have this unified, that's a political thing that he's doing, right? Because they're like, NDP's aligned with liberals, right? And conservatives are basically there by themselves, right? So if you guys come and do this unified approach crap, how do you think that looks in the public eye? That's a win for liberals and NDPs.
Yeah.
And especially if you go into election any time now, right?
Yeah.
And that's also this guy's choice, right? If that's what's happening, why would they come and do all of what he's saying, right? And no, not everyone agrees with what he's saying.
For sure.
Who's saying to spend more money? That's a solution here, right? And he's like, he woke up to these unjust and like even... He woke up today to this trade war, right? Everyone's been talking about it for months, right? But he woke up today.
He just realized,
Yeah, right? And even then, he's like, I know you don't need to resume Parliament. But why didn't they resume Parliament before?
Yeah.
Poilievre's been talking about it for how long?
Don't you think stability matters? Don't you think an election matters?
And to me, I'm not one of those people that's like, I know it's going to sound like we keep going Poilievre right now, right? But we give everyone their flowers, right? When you need them, right?
Yeah.
But at this point, right, what's going on with Canada and everything that's been going on, right? you had the left basically put Canada in a position where inflation went sky high because of pandemic, right? And then immigration was up, right? Now you've built this hatred towards immigrants. That's basically their fault for opening those floodgates in the first place, right? And now when your GDP is low, right? And now you're shutting off immigration, right? So you're going to get, it's going to take an effect on GDP, especially if there's no new immigrants coming in, right? And I know that's not something that all Canadians want to hear.
Yeah.
But typically as a tool to somewhat stimulate the economy, you would open that tap a little bit when the economy is doing bad. All countries do it, right?
Yeah.
Now, are you left with any options? No. Right?
Yeah.
Now you're going to a time when your output, your GDP is lower, right? And it's going to continue to be low, right? And because of everything that the Liberal NDP government did, now you don't even have any options.
Yeah.
So now you have to be in the space where it's cut taxes, incentivize businesses, and that has to be how you're moving forward. Spend less money, not more, like he's saying, right?
Sure.
Not more like the Liberals' plan on the $6 billion deal and what he's saying, EI and all of this stuff. Like nothing has even happened yet. These guys just want to get up in front of mics and be heroes. Right? They just start talking like it's my turn to shine.
Yeah, all these guys like to paint Poilievre like he's like some extremist, some extreme right. He's mega light, if that.
Yeah.
He's like slightly off center right.
Yeah.
It's not as extreme as like how people like to paint him. And all of these parties are just finding new ways to spend. He's the only guy saying, whoa, let's cut taxes, let's lower spending. The rest of them are like, no, there's EI we can spend on, we can spend here, we can build a train, we can do this, we can do that, throwing billions of dollars around, right? I don't know. Common sense conservatives. That's what it seems like.
I mean, at this point, like to what you're saying, I don't see how anyone can say that Poilievre is extreme. I don't get it. Right? Like, how do the country is going into debt, right? And the guys with the credit card, you're like, these guys, we trust these guys, right? Like, that's our plan. Like, I think you have to put yourself in a position where you stop spending money, like you keep saying. But these guys don't want to stop.
Yeah.
Right. And more than anything, what does Canada need right now? Some sort of unity, certainty, like he keeps expressing. Why don't you just resume Parliament, call an election, and let's get that show on the road?
He said he was going to, didn't he?
I mean, we have a clip of him saying how he feels about that also.
You want to vote down the government at your earliest opportunity. Do you still stand by that statement? And do you think now is the time for an election?
Now is the time to put workers first. We're literally in a trade war. And I can't imagine any opposition leader that wouldn't want to support a package to help workers impacted by this. We did that during the pandemic. We came together. We need to have that same approach now. So my answer to that is we need supports for workers first, put in place working, an election afterwards. And what I'm saying is I want supports for workers done first. An election is secondary to that. First, let's get the support in place for those workers. Let's make sure they get the help that they need. People are already losing their jobs, and then we can worry about an election after that.
So you would see this legislation, or if it would require legislation, receive royal assent before you'd be comfortable going to an election? Obviously, if there was legislation towards that, it would die on the order paper once an election was called. So is that what you're saying? You'd need to see it become law or pass through the Senate and return back?
Yeah, I don't want just a lip service. I want protections in place for workers, passed and implemented, helping out people. We literally have a dire situation.
See, look at that. He's leveraging it for his political gain.
Yeah.
He's like, I want something permanent.
Yeah. In other words, I want to delay this as long as possible, and we'll have an election later.
Then why did you come out and say that the earliest opportunity, I'm going to call it an election? Right? All I want to do is root for this guy. Like, he's a Punjabi Sikh person in Parliament. Like, I want nothing more than to root for this guy, but I can't put up with his stupid policies.
I feel like he's hurting Canada in the sense that the whole country wants a change and the whole country wants an election, right? And this guy's holding all the cards, right? Yeah. And instead of having a vote of no confidence, resuming Parliament, having a vote of no confidence, getting an election done, having let Canada know where we're going, moving into these tariffs, right? And the leader that Canada chooses, let's go do that. Right? Instead of doing that, this guy's saying, I need this bullshit EI in place. When that person even asked him the question, he's like, Yeah. Put it into law. I don't just need spoken word. I need a law and implement it. All I heard was, oh, there's more delaying I can do?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just delay more, right? And then we'll do an election,
But
right?
what is the reason? Why does he keep delaying? Why doesn't he want it?
I feel like it's
political.
Yeah, it's a political.
What is it?
Like right now, since they prorogue parliament, like Poilievre's been out of the public eye, right? Like you don't see him anywhere, right? And when he does that, these liberals, what they're doing is they're on all these TV stations, right? And they're talking about like, this campaign that they're running that nobody watched, by the way, right? But in their mind, they think that they're in front of Canada and they're doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right. And then the same way this guy, it gives him time to come in front of people and do this EI crap that he just, and then he's going to be like, look, I gave Canadians more money and this and that. Right. And then slowly, you let this thing escalate a little bit and then they show how angry they are at Trump and how, bad it is. Right.
Yeah.
The polls already started to affect Poilievre a little bit, right? It shifted a little bit, but you keep him out of the public eye and you essentially, it's a political game, right? And then you essentially keep trying to show Canada that like, hey, listen, we're spending money on you guys, right? So vote for us, right?
Yeah.
And Canadians are typically center left, like barely center right, like the ones that they
barely
like to call extremists. They're not extremely
this isn't even the extreme right party of Canada, the Conservatives.
No,
they're just the center right party.
You can call them the center party. I don't even see what the hell's wrong with their ideas, right? They're basically just saying we want to spend less money, right, and we want to incentivize businesses.
Yeah.
Right. And the liberals, NDPs, all of them, like you see, their solutions are just billions of dollars. Like, how can just give us another reason to spend billions of dollars?
Like, this guy's saying that this is a dire situation, right? If it's so dire, what do you need? What does a country need in a dire situation? You need stability. When your dollar is crashing, the stock market's crashing, the economy is crashing. All you're doing is spending money. They're going to lower the rate again now. They have to. They said they didn't want to. They're going to be lowering it in a couple of days.
They don't have any options, bro.
Yeah.
What are they going to do?
So what should they be doing? He should be calling an election. And if given the climate, given the past 9 years, if you're not fed up as a Canadian, if none of this bothers you and you want to elect one of those people back into office, that's fine. Go for it, right? If Canada chooses to do that, we all have to live with it. Hey, you elected one of these people, go for it. If you want to elect Carney, who's Trudeau's advisor over the past couple of years in Freeland, we all know what the hell is going on there. If you want to re-elect those people in, go for it. But give us the right to do that.
I don't think anyone's going for that. I think everyone's been talking about Poilievre. It doesn't matter where you stand politically. Like this is kind of the time. 9 years of the Liberal government has gotten Canada to where it's gotten now, right? And they keep talking about spending more money. It's like if you compare it to household budgets, right? If you're so over budgeted that your credit cards are maxed out, there's no money in your bank account, and somebody like the leader of the finances comes up and goes, you know what? Swipe the credit card, we're on vacation, right? Like, for what are you spending? Like, the output is going down. There's no money Canada's making. GDP is going down. We're in a tariff war. All of this is going on. Instead of finding a solution, like how in a household, you'd be like, I'm going to go get a second job. I'm going to try to figure out something, how to make this thing work, sell this off. You start to regress your spending a little. It's like, no. Why would we do that? Why would we be actual leaders and negotiate something for Canada? Why would we take a political loss and be like, hey, our country needs this. Maybe we just negotiate with Trump. Right? And it seems like why they're not doing any of that is because they're not Democrats. If there was a Democrat in office, even if there's a tariff war going on, they would have figured it out. Right? And that's kind of what's happening with Europe and stuff, right? A lot of them are also left-wing, right? So the left-wing government in Canada is siding with the left-wing government globally, right?
For sure.
So Canadians have to choose. Do you want to keep going down that path? Like, I don't see it. I don't see this whole, they like to call Poilievre Maple MAGA or whatever they call it. Like, I don't know what the hell they think this guy is. To me, he says only things that make sense, right? And you could say that he's a populist. You could say that they're just slogans. Honestly, even if the guy was just like, I'm just going to go there and I'm just not going to spend money. I'd be like, okay. That's what Canada needs. Canada needs somebody, which I don't know if he's prepared to actually get in a room with Trump and negotiate these tariffs. If he's going to get off of that whole Canada. I'm not saying don't put Canada first. I'm Canadian. I want Canada first no matter what. But you have to decide if you're going to go play this card where US is now the enemy and China is a friend. Canada has to decide that. Right?
For sure.
And it's very easy to keep saying that, no, it's US, right? And it's not. That's what Jagmeet's saying. That's what Trudeau's saying. That's what even to an extent Poilievre is saying. Right? But Poilievre's not in power yet, right? So and Jagmeet holds all the cards, bro. That's
the thing. That's the annoying part.
As soon as Parliament is resumed, this guy, after all the BS, he even said the next time Parliament's resumed, I will vote no confidence right away.
You see how he backed off that? How quickly?
Yeah. I mean, and our dads are saying he even says like, why do they call him sellout? Saying, this is why.
Yeah,
right, because he backs off of his word.
Went back on his word.
Yeah,
you said something. You said it in the public eye. Just own up to it.
And if the country, he sees the polls, right? He keeps talking about Canadians. What magical Canadians is he talking about? The whole country wants an election.
Yeah,
and this guy's talking about Canadians need these EI. Who the hell is telling him Canadian needs EI benefits? Like, what kind of like? I don't know. To me, if anyone at this point is electing these people, Canada deserves the leader they get.
Yeah, you deserve whoever you elect, right? But if you loved your life in the past 9 years and you thought it was so great and you were so happy, especially over these past 2, then even that's fine. If Canada elects someone into power, you have to live with it. These guys aren't even giving us the option.
You do have to live with it, but at this point, Indy, man, how Canadians can't be sick of this stuff, especially after a comment like Jagmeet just made. Like, how can't you just be at a point where you're like, enough is enough, man?
Yeah.
Let these elections come so we can be gone with all this BS.
For sure.
Right? And I'm not saying Poilievre's perfect. I'm not saying he's the answer, but it's change.
Yeah.
This isn't working for anybody.
That's for sure.
Right? This 6 billion, 8 billion, this guy's EI, that he just numbers. They just throw them out like they're nothing. Right? Like this is
Canada first. Listen to your people.
Yeah.
They've been telling you what they want. An election.
Yeah.
I think it's weird how they do it now. Like, it's kind of unfair that the next leader of the Liberal Party will just become the prime minister. But like, the Canadians didn't even elect them as prime minister. So it's confusing.
It is, and if it is Mark Carney, he's not even a member of Parliament, right? So
that's even worse.
Why is that happening? I don't get it.
I feel like these are merely our opinions based on our life experiences, knowledge, and research. Maybe you agree or disagree, or simply want to be a part of the conversation. Leave a comment and let us know your thoughts. Now let's get back to the pod. Your prime minister resigns, and they're like, we'll decide when the next election is, right? And that's what they're doing. They're playing a political game instead of being like, hey, listen, this isn't fair, right? None of this is fair. Like, you know, the leader of the country is resigning, right? Let's let Canada vote ASAP.
Yeah.
Not use tariffs as an excuse, not use whatever trade wars or whatever they're going to use next as an excuse to just keep pushing this thing down to October.
Yeah.
Right? If Trudeau didn't resign and Canada was this frustrated, I would be like, yeah, he won the last election fair and square, right? And now, we should legally, you have to wait until October for those elections, right?
Yeah.
But once that leader steps down, what are you guys doing?
What are you waiting for? Like, it's put into place that the leader they elect their leader, and obviously, if there is no prime minister, they automatically become the new prime minister. It's an unfortunate situation, but given the climate now and everything that's happening and continuing to happen, it feels like even that might have been part of it, just the resigning and all this, delaying everything. How can it not? It does to me.
It turns me into a skeptic now, right? Like, I just feel like all of this, like Trudeau stepping down, was done with a conversation with the Liberal Party and Mark Carney, and this is just my assumption. This is in fact, I'm telling you my opinion. But I feel like this is all done in a way where they can be in power as long as they possibly can. And it is somewhat to what Trump is saying. He said when he got off the phone with Trudeau the other day, he was like, it seemed like he's doing this whole tariff thing to stay in power. Even he realized that off of that phone call. He's like, something's off here, right? And I'm not like the biggest Trump guy. I'm Canada first, right? And the only reason I'm saying negotiate with the US, because to me, you don't want to make an enemy out of the US.
For sure.
Right? I think it's in Canada's best interest to negotiate with the US and not with China. Right?
Yeah.
But Canadians, because China's acting the way they are and being like, hey, we're here, guys. Canadians are like, yeah, let's go do that.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know, man.
Yeah. But that's just our opinions on our political leaders. Let's move on to PBD. If you guys don't know, this guy is the PBD podcast is a successful and an established podcast in the US. And Patrick Bet-David had a few things to say about Poilievre.
Who, as a world leader, has a shittier resume than him and a worse approval rating the fact that people are done with him. Mm-hmm. And even with that, Pierre Poilievre couldn't beat him.
That's what's the sad part.
Well, you know why it's not sad? Because every time we invited Pierre, arrogant, pompous team, the only podcast he ever did is Jordan Peterson. You deserve losing. And you didn't win. And I said that to Canadians who love him. The candidate you adore and admire and love doesn't want to work. God forbid he has to cross the border and go talk to other borders to bring attention. God forbid, too much travel time. He's got to eat his apple. He's got to eat his apple because he's got to get his apple in his system. Go to New York, do a damn podcast outside of Jordan Peterson. Go do Joe Rogan's podcast. Go to some other podcast and talk to Lex. Go talk to whatever these other podcasts are. Go talk to Andrew Schultz down the street from you in New York. And you lost to Justin. You couldn't beat him. That's embarrassing. Be as talented as you want and as strong as you want, and you think you've won without earning the right to win. You don't believe in capitalism. You just want it to be handed to you. I'm sorry, Canadians. You need a better candidate that's willing to work their asses off to make Canada great again. And this guy didn't want to work. I watched him give messages. I'm like, what a great message. Get your ass in front of cameras. Didn't want to do it. Go talk to people. Pierre Poilievre campaigned the same exact way as Kamala Harris did. When it comes down to campaigning, not policies, he is Kamala Harris. Oh, Pierre, your hero that you guys wanted, does not want to work. I hope Canadians see this and send it around and blast him and encourage him to go talk to the biggest podcast in Canada. He's not too good for podcasts in Canada. He's only talking to Jordan Peterson. Go talk to the people. You say you want to be a man of the people? Go be the man of the people.
I don't think Poilievre lost to Justin yet, right? No, I don't know if he knows that.
Saying that.
I don't think he...
Does he speak French?
No.
Does he not sound French Canadian to you?
No.
Canadian.
I think he's just trying to enunciate it.
Poilievre, yeah, I think they're not familiar with how Canada say Poilievre.
He sounded like he was from Quebec.
Someone probably told him that's how you say it.
No, but I think he's, because the Trudeau, the last election was in 2021, but Poilievre, I think, became the leader in 2022.
He wasn't even the party.
Right, so he's saying that he lost to him already. I think he didn't know, right? Fair enough. You don't want to shit on him too much for that. But everything else that he's saying, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like why I agree with him in the sense that we've said this before, that Poilievre is, can come off as arrogant and pompous. Those exact words of this last podcast. We say it all the time. Right? He's still the guy that we prefer because those are options that Canada has. And to me, I don't think Poilievre would make a bad prime minister. I think he would actually be one of those leaders that Canada, people are going to shit on him, right, for now, right? But he is one of the best options Canada's had in decades.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Because Trudeau's been in power for a decade, right? But like, even outside of that, right?
Yeah.
I feel like what has happened here, though, yes, he's not doing these podcasts, and he is, I can imagine if you're dealing with his team and trying to get him on, even, I think Sukhbir was talking about it too, like how he comes off as arrogant, like he would talk down to people.
Yeah.
Right? And I think he was referencing his clip of him eating an apple.
The apple one,
that reporter, right? So he's talking shit about him. Yeah. I think this guy sees that Poilievre is a superstar in terms of talking.
Yeah, right? He likes him too.
Yeah, Poilievre's good in front of the camera, right? He needs to be in front of camera, so he's not wrong. But the problem is this 51st state crap.
Yeah.
Right? This tariff war. If Trump waited and he did this whole thing after the elections, right, would have been fine.
I think he might have done some of the podcasts.
Maybe
if this wasn't going on, if the climate wasn't the same.
But also, it's not election time for him. Why would he be doing so many? Why would he be campaigning?
Who?
Poilievre. Right now, we still need to pick a liberal. Isn't that happening right now? Don't we have time?
No,
elections in October.
No, they're campaigning right when the hell the elections are. You are already seeing liberal and conservative federal ads on Canadian televised programs. You're already seeing them. Right? You see them online. They're already pushing ads. They haven't ramped it up because we don't know what Jagmeet's saying over there when he wants to do this no confidence thing or what the hell he wants to do. Yeah. If Mark Carney wants to call an election, if it was up to the PCs, this thing would happen as soon as Parliament resumed, right?
You know what's
we're in this mess.
But he said we're not calling an election, so we know that's not happening.
Jagmeet?
Yeah.
We don't know for sure. Carney could call
rambling it, right? But Carney most likely my thought process here is, unless they have some other plan in mind.
Yeah.
I think if Carney gets a Liberal Party leader, if he becomes Liberal Party leader, I think he will call an election because he's not a member of parliament.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want a seat in the House, you have to call an election.
Yeah.
Right. So I think he would. Right.
But what if they call this non-traditional election and they try to make it so they don't even get to have a debate, right? Before the election gets called?
At this point, maybe I'm out of touch or these guys are out of touch, right? But I don't know a single person who is even remotely fooled by what's going on with the Liberals and NDP.
People are. These polls are telling us.
No, I think boomers are, right? Because I think what ends up happening to what he's saying, right? He doesn't realize that in Canada, who consumes CBC, the Canadian broadcasting? Nobody does, right? Even boomers in Canada, they consume CNN, right? Does anyone consume any right-wing media? No. Does anyone watch Fox? No. The most right-wing you'll get is left-wing Jon Stewart, right? Like that's like most, or Bill Maher, like that's like the most like common sense kind of, programming that most people are going to consume, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to podcasts, there aren't big enough podcasts in Canada where people, that's their news source, right? So what's their news source is basically what those people tell them, right?
Yeah.
But what he doesn't understand when it comes to Canadians specifically, at this point, when you listen to these podcasts, like even PBD's podcast, I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan, PBD, Flagrant, all these guys he's mentioning, right? But a lot of when all of this stuff's going on, this 51st state stuff, right? And it's very easy to just react and be like, you know what, this is what we're doing to Canada. Canada can't do shit to us, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, Canadians are going to hear that and they're going to stop listening right, to those podcasts.
I also my first thought on that video is I don't think he's well versed in Canadian politics to be just saying things like that.
For sure.
I don't know how much research he's done.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's justified him talking about Poilievre like that.
I think what happened there is he didn't want to come on his podcast, and it seems like
he seemed a little butthurt
for sure.
But even now, does that wouldn't make me want to come on your podcast.
I think
so. You can just drill him,
Yeah, I think it's what Pretender said. If the 51st state thing wasn't going on, then he might have even went on these podcasts, a couple of them. Because the one thing he has going for him, he's so much better than his counterparts. When it comes to public speaking, even if you take Trudeau away and you put Carney in front, imagine Carney, Poilievre, and Jagmeet debating
food.
It's over.
Yeah, it's over.
He'd be so much better. So even going on these podcasts, how many Canadians consume these podcasts? He actually has a chance of garnering more support and going viral, right? Having clips.
Well, there are a couple of things. Like one is if you look at anything that any kind of Canadian content that gets pushed about Trudeau or Canadian politics right now, it gets views.
Yeah.
Right. So he is a podcaster at the end of the day. So he's like, hey, I'm going to get views, so I want to watch. It's not saying that he needs views from Poilievre or anything, but he's always looking to engage and continue.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think where I do somewhat agree with him, I do think Poilievre's camp, I don't know him personally, I don't know his camp personally, but I do think they are the kind of people who want this controlled environment of these are the
Kamala
I don't know if it's Kamala but it is kind of like Jordan Peterson, they went to Daily Wire, right, and Ben Shapiro and all that, and they had his whole thing there. I think he's done 2 podcasts with Jordan Peterson. To be fair, Jordan Peterson is a Canadian, right? He used to be at UFT and all that stuff that happened with him, right? So it's a safe place, right? And you would only go to a podcast like PBD, especially because they're gonna grill him, right? Because they're also very pro-Trump, rightfully so. That's their guy. Yeah, he did.
Okay.
And maybe I don't know if Poilievre's familiar or whatever. These guys have had some superstars on their podcast, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, they do Rogan does more numbers than anyone on the planet, any program on the planet, right? So it doesn't make sense. And if Poilievre actually went on Rogan, I think Rogan is a great conversationalist, and he's not the gotcha type of interview. He's not going to do that, right? So I think that would be a good move for him, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think what somebody's gotten into his mind is, and they might be right, I don't know, is that this 51st state crap, if you're going to go on any of these podcasts, right? like even Rogan, they'll joke sometimes about like Canada and Mexico in too, right? And like I'm not sensitive, so it doesn't bother me, right? I'm
But
like,
a lot of
whatever,
Canadians
right?
are sensitive.
But sometimes, a lot of the voters, especially at a time like this, when you're losing jobs, unemployment's going up, the whole country's GDP is in the like. If all of that's going on and you're going to go on these podcasts and they're going to give that kind of notion, this guy might lose votes. So I know what he's thinking. Like optics. I gotta go, it's all about optics at the end of the day, right?
For sure.
And when it comes to PBD, I don't disagree with this whole notion that he's saying he's like, go on Canadian podcasts. You're not beneath the Canadian podcast.
Yeah.
And that is what Poilievre should be doing.
Yeah.
Right? Because nobody consumes any kind of media here. The problem is any kind of podcast that I know of, I'm not going to mention their names, but they're left wing.
Yeah.
There's no right, center, even common sense podcast that exists in Canada. Well, this one might be one, right? But like, there's not any that are where you can go and it's a place where you're going to not be attacked.
Yeah.
From what I know.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe I could be wrong and I'm out of touch with certain Canadian podcasts, but I feel like, where is he really going to go?
Yeah.
Right. He has
That's
to.
why he went to Peterson.
That's probably why he went. But then again, I think PBD's probably reached out to him, so he's frustrated that his camp's not, responding or they don't want to do the podcast or whatever. But I'm kind of like 50-50 with that. Like one is, yes, Poilievre is a superstar for Canada right now, right?
And he would kill it on a podcast.
He would, because the guy seems like he knows how to talk. If you've ever,
I almost think like now that you're talking about like just his mannerisms and stuff, he's not the jokey joke type.
No, he's not.
So I don't know that he would do well on Rogan. Rogan wouldn't drill them. I think he would probably do good on PBD.
I think the thing with
he'd get defensive. I could see that happen.
No, I think even Kamala made a mistake by not going on Rogan because
Rogan's a great entry.
No, Rogan jokes. Rogan's like a nice guy.
Yeah, but Rogan will also like
He'll do his research. Like
he'll talk to you.
Yeah,
and he's a conversationalist,
yeah.
right? He's good
on
at
like a human level.
Yeah, becoming
like,
your friend and being
like a little arrogant himself. Like, let's be real.
For sure, right? He's a business entrepreneur guy, right? Like I get it. I'm not trying to say like I agree with him and let's just shit on Poilievre, right? Because Poilievre is our guy, right? But like if Poilievre does come off as arrogant. We all know this, right? And that's kind of how he comes off, right?
Especially in Canada, where he comes off as very arrogant compared to his counterpart.
Yeah. That was like a campaign move.
Who?
To be like a strong, arrogant type of personality as opposed to
maybe it's just who he is. I don't know.
I mean, at this point, like he jokes in when they're in the house. You see him joking and making fun of Trudeau all the time.
Yeah.
He's laughing too, right? It's just like I feel like you're just in front of the camera right now. He's trying to be a very serious guy. It's something that Canada needs. He realizes it, right? And I personally feel like if it wasn't for this 51st state stuff, maybe he would have done some of these podcasts. Maybe not. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's because of the climate, man.
Yeah.
What's going on, tariffs, 51st state. I think his whole team has advised him, don't go on anything American.
Which... I don't know. Like, it's probably the right move right now. You might lose votes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like me personally.
What would be the point of going on an American podcast? Just because Canadians listen to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They have a massive Canadian audience, right? I think the issue is if you're going to look at American podcasts, when they talk about like their Canadian audience, they just go like, yeah, we told them Canadian. The thing is like, if you put America first, right? To Canadians, it starts sounding like America only.
Yeah.
Right? And if you have, like, we have an American audience, right?
Yeah.
We have a very small podcast, but a lot of the people that watch us are American.
Yeah.
We don't hate Americans.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to be like, America sucks or whatever, right? And honestly, you can't even rightfully say that. Financially, they're better than us. Militarily, they're better than
Yeah.
You got what's true is true, right?
Yeah.
But still, Canadian pride, we're Canadians, right? And we're proud of our country, and we're going to do whatever we can to build this country better, right? And that starts with actually electing somebody who has a little bit of common sense, whether you think he's pompous or arrogant or whatever's going on.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's making a mistake by not being in front of cameras. That's why when he was like, get in front of cameras, that I agree with.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just be on your own YouTube channel, just catering to your own audience of 20, 30,000 people. You got to get on different audiences, different communities, Asians, South Asians, Indians, like go in the communities, get in front of those kind of podcasts, right? Do you be very, if you're going to, like what he's saying, like I was saying that there's no right-wing screw the right-wing podcast. Go look, is there an Asian podcast that's popping? Cultural one?
Maybe we
Go
should
on.
reach out to his camp.
You think he's going to respond to our 300 subs? But yeah, let's move on to the NBA. Yeah, so I think the Lakers are going to win the Larry O'Brien Trophy this year.
They're winning it all?
I think so. So they've won 8 straight, and it seems like this LeBron-Luka thing.
Yeah.
It's good chemistry, man.
How stupid must Nico feel right now? Like, it sucks. Like, he makes a deal, and how many people were going, okay, this is my number 1 team in the West right now. That was the whole Lakers kind of lost the trade, and then what happens? 80 down the first game. Kyrie's done now. Both their centers are down. They seem like they're screwed going into next year.
Yeah, I saw so many tweets on like this was my favorite. I was so optimistic about this NBA season, and now it's the worst Mavs season ever.
Yeah, like how can you take the franchise and just ship them away, right? I don't know if something else will come up to light about that whole situation, but it seems pretty weird.
I mean, to me, I feel like if you're the Lakers right now, if you're a fan of the Lakers, they've won 8 straight, right?
Yeah.
8-2 in their last 10. I feel like whenever you're watching that team, it's reminding me very much so of like LeBron Kyrie, LeBron D Wade, LeBron Luka.
Yeah.
Like I look around the league.
Must see TV. No?
Yeah. I look around the league and I'm like, okay, who has 2 players that are better than LeBron and Luka right now?
Mm-hmm.
Who?
Well, big game tonight, right? Celtics.
Oh, Celtics.
Tatum, Brown. Yeah. A tandem? I don't know.
Celtics won.
Celtics won? Was it close?
111, 102.
Oh,
okay.
A close game.
Yeah, I mean that would be an interesting final for sure. But like if you look on the West, right? Like I know Charles Barkley was a little angry that people are overlooking OKC and even in the East, Cleveland. He's like they make the NBA, and he's very angry. He's like, yo, why are you guys overlooking these teams? And like, because I think people on ESPN were saying that the Lakers saved the NBA season.
I think they did.
I think I disagree with Charles Barkley here.
Yeah.
Right? Because they cover the NBA all day.
Yeah.
Right? And they don't realize that there was a time fans just need somebody to root against and root for. Right? And it's fine if somebody else wins a championship, but if there's a villain and a hero in the NBA, it just works better.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's about bigger markets necessarily.
Yeah.
If there's somewhat super teams in the NBA, I think
it's good.
It's a better product.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And I think they did everything to make sure that these super teams don't happen.
Yeah.
Right? And then people stop watching. So I think from that standpoint, they're trying to say that the Lakers saved the NBA season, right? Like I don't know if they did or didn't, but me watching Luka play with LeBron, it seems like Luka is a ball handler. He finds LeBron running on the wings like how Wade used to, how Kevin Love used to.
Yeah.
Right. And it seems like he's playing very freely. And I don't remember the last time after those first couple of games once Luka came in, I don't remember the last time I've seen LeBron play with somebody that can score that easily.
Yeah. For
like
sure.
Since a Miami
he can create his own shot.
Since Kyrie.
Yeah. And like, when's the last time it felt like LeBron was the hero? Because I feel like so many people love Luka. There's a lot of people rooting for this team now, especially the young generation. This is kind of their MJ, right? They're getting a lot of support too. A lot of people are rooting for them.
I mean, okay, so let's just go through it. If on the West, you got OKC, right?
Yeah.
I think Lakers take out OKC in the playoffs simply because of playoff experience.
Yeah, to me, they haven't proven themselves. Like, you got to get to at least the conference final.
Like, who's the number 2 on OKC? Chet? Right?
Chet, yeah.
Right? Shea and Chet, right?
I think he's injured even.
If you look at that and you compare that to LeBron and Luka, right? And even if you're going to go to, like, Luka was in the finals last year.
Yeah.
Right? We all know LeBron's playoff experience.
Yeah.
Right? So even though OKC is a strong team, they have a phenomenal record. I don't see them beating LA in a 7-game series, right? The only competition I see in the West, truthfully, is Denver.
Yeah. I was going to say the same. That's kind of, or it's been LeBron's Achilles heel, right?
Yeah.
You got to get through them.
Yeah.
That's the one team you got to look at. And matchup-wise, I think they might be able to do it. They already beat them on this little stretch, right?
Yeah, they beat him on this little stretch, but I don't think they have an answer for Jokic. But I think LeBron having Luka right now takes a lot of that pressure off. And I think you now got a guy who's used to hitting big shots, right? Something about Luka, he kind of has what Jokic has, where they throw up some of these shots and you're like, is that going in? And they go in, even in big games, right? Like Luka Magic, right? So to me, I feel like even that's going to be one of their biggest challenges. And then whoever comes out of the East, me being selfish, I would love to see a Celtics Lakers final.
I think we all want to see that.
That would be cool. For the NBA, that would be cool. I think the ratings would be massive, right?
Yeah.
And as much as Charles Barkley is getting annoyed that people aren't paying attention to small market teams, people don't pay attention to small podcasts. People don't pay attention to small anything small, right? Like they only look at the big stuff, right? So it's great for the NBA. I disagree with Charles Barkley. I think it's great for the NBA if you have a Lakers and Celtics
imagine a Golden State Lakers conference final.
There's I think they could have Golden the highest rolling too.
There's that. They could come out of there too. I feel like
think about them.
I feel like LeBron and Steph, they're just playing loose now, and Steph's going off too. I think he dropped 50 something the other night. Like he's scoring
ever since the Jimmy Butler trade, right?
Yeah.
Golden State went from out of the play-in to now I think they are 6th in the West.
Yeah, look at that.
Right? So I mean, that means they're not going to be in the play-in.
Yeah.
Right? So if they're not in the play-in, they themselves are on an 8 the last 10 they're 8-2.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like both of them are now in this space where I don't know. The playoffs are definitely going to be interesting. Like I don't think Houston is going to beat any challenge. Like I think that's going to come down to Los Angeles, LA, Denver, OKC, and Golden State.
I feel like we glossed over OKC. A lot of people probably be mad at that.
Yeah.
And then I guess you have to look at the Cavs too. Because they've locked up the first seed, and they have a very deep team, deep bench, and they're gonna cruise to that second round. They're not nobody formidable they're gonna be facing, and if they get a favorable matchup, then they're going to the conference finals, and they're not gonna be having spent that much energy getting there, right? They're gonna be well rested.
In the East, I think it's Boston, New York, Milwaukee, right, and Cleveland, right. So those top 4 teams. If that's what's going on, you don't know who's going to make it out of that. That's a tough road for an inexperienced Cavaliers team to get through all of that. I don't know. I personally feel like you're going to see Boston in the finals again.
Boston Lakers finals might be one of the most or the most watched ever. That would be amazing for this league that's struggling.
I don't think it'll be the most watched ever, but the last few years is definitely a better.
The ratings will be way better than the last couple.
Way better. It'll feel like it means something, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to see. Maybe it's because we're older. We're all the older guys, right? I would love to see OKC. Golden State, Lakers, right? Like, I want to see superstars play
for sure,
right?
Did you guys see with Stephen A?
Oh yeah, I completely glossed over that.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. I think we even have a clip of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say here's a clip of Stephen A. and LeBron getting into a little bit of a situation courtside.
You got a lip read a bit there, I guess.
Yeah.
But Stephen A. even came out and he said he had a response to what was actually going on.
Yeah.
Stop effing with my son. That's my effing son. Stop effing with my son. I said, what? Nah. Man, straight up, man to man. Real talk. Stop effing with my son. And I saw how furious he was. And I said, we can talk about it later. Nah, F that. Stop effing with my son. That's my son. I said, all right, dog. Fine. And he walked away. That's all he said. I understand it. I respect it as a parent. I'm a father of 2 daughters. And in all honesty, I couldn't definitively tell you that if I were LeBron James, I would not have done the same thing. I would hope that I would not have. I would hope that I would have picked up the phone and called the person instead, or got arranged to see that person face to face instead, rather than walking up to me in the middle of a game. And it had gone viral. It was number one. It was the number one sports story going. And regardless of everybody wanting to walk around acting like they don't have bosses, I don't deny the fact that I have bosses. I work for ESPN, and ESPN called me this morning. They said, what you mean you ain't talking about it? You most certainly have to talk about it.
I like how you own that.
This directly involves you. and LeBron James is the biggest story in the country right now in sports, there's no way for you to escape
That's pretty true. You couldn't have avoided that.
What did he say about his son?
Well,
For this?
Or has he been saying?
Well, he went on in the podcast to say that he was just like saying how little points he's scoring and stuff like that. His stats. That's what LeBron was mad about.
Okay.
But he was more or less, he explains himself. He was trying to say that this wasn't necessary. LeBron didn't have to force him into the league. Right? That's his whole stance. And I also think Stephen A was holding back. Stephen A, I know, would have came if it was anybody but LeBron James, because LeBron James gets the ratings. He would have came back a lot harsher than that.
I don't know what that was. I don't, like you're saying, I don't remember the last time I've seen Stephen A hold his punches.
Yeah,
especially when it comes to players. He'll keep family out of it. I think that's just kind of his like moral line that he doesn't like to cross. And because it's LeBron's son, he kind of respects that. He's like, it's another man's son.
For sure.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I'll stay out of it.
Yeah.
Right? But I feel like I don't know what Stephen A said, so I'm just gonna take it kind of off of what you're saying. If he's judging Bronny's basketball, like what people are gonna judge his basketball.
Player, right?
Yeah, you're in the public eye.
Playing,
He's gonna judge basketball. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
right?
Just calling out the stats. Like they were all facts.
Yeah.
Right. From what I saw.
Yeah.
So to me, I feel like I look at that, and I mean, I think we were talking about LeBron last podcast, and I was talking about how maybe he's just done with all the scrutiny.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe it's starting to finally get to the guy. Right. You're in the league, and imagine like being a dad. Right. And we could say that he should understand it or whatever. Right. But imagine being a dad and your kid's really trying. Right. And I'm not
That's
saying.
what I think it is. I don't know if necessarily that he's done. I think it's imagine someone talking shit to your kid.
Stephen A said that much too. Even in the clip, he's just like, I don't blame him.
Like, I get it, right? I do the same thing. Maybe. I don't know.
No, definitely. If that was my son, right, and I'm in the league and everyone keeps shitting on me, I'm going to want to protect him.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to want to be like, hey, listen, man, that's my son. Stop saying that.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're the dad, right? You can't just sit idly by, especially if he's on the court with you.
Yeah.
Right? But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know exactly what set this guy off to, talk like that. But these couple of clips were one, he's saying that I don't know why you would want to be the face of the league, right? Because everyone's just talking negative, right? And then he goes to Stephen A and he's like, that's my son. That's no, F that. That's my son, right? And that's what he's saying to him. Yeah. It's kind of like what maybe there's something else behind the scenes that set him off as something somebody said or a train of thought. People keep bringing him and Jordan up. Like, I don't know what this is. Right?
Yeah.
But something about him is saying that he doesn't like the negativity he's getting anymore. For all those years he's been scrutinized so much, he's now kind of just being like, stop it.
He's never really said anything.
No.
Either. People have been talking way worse about him. But the nature of it is that your son's in the league now and you're LeBron James. You knew this was going to happen. People were going to talk about him. 100%. Because that's all they ever talk about is LeBron every day on every sports network or First Take for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's Stephen A's job.
Yeah.
Right. That's just what he
said
does.
It.
Yeah.
He's like, my bosses told me, even this, he's like, I was going to avoid it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I see both sides of it.
I do see.
And Stephen A.
I do see both sides of it, but I would get LeBron's side more if Stephen A said some shit that was outside of basketball. If he was saying something out of pocket where he's like, this kid's acting like this or that, which I don't think anyone really says. Bronny's like a model citizen. You never see him really act any kind of way outside of him just playing basketball, right? And he is in the league and you're going to get scrutinized because your dad is arguably one of the top 2 players to ever play the game. Yeah. And there's a microscope on your dad 24/7. So you think the kid they're not going to analyze his basketball? Like, who cares? Does anyone care about the 30th draft pick ever? Like,
ever.
No, right?
Yeah.
But if it's LeBron's son, they're going to care.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And they're going to talk about him, right?
Yeah, but isn't that the thing? Like, aren't other people talking about him? Like, why did LeBron only run up on this Steven guy and say something? Just because he felt like he could intimidate him?
No. So Stephen A isn't really, like, in the public eye, he's not really like, it's not like he's like a hard ass or anything, right?
Yeah.
But he's not somebody who backs off of his word.
Yeah.
Like previously, this happened with him and AI, like way back in the day when AI used to play for Philly. And StephenASmith would always just say a couple of things about AI. And then AI, there was like rumors where AI and his people were out looking for Stephen A. And then Stephen A was like, no, F that, I'll come to you. So he flew out to Philly, I think it was. And he brought his guys and he's like, I sat down with AI and I met up with him and I was like, what the hell's the problem? And AI was like, yo, you stop talking about my family, right? And he was, I don't know, it was something along those lines. And he's like, I didn't expect it from you.
Same type of situation.
Some sort of situation where he was like, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't know the exact quote and I don't remember it, but he was saying something along the lines like, when you said it, it hurt.
Yeah,
right? Like what you were saying, right? Because Stephen A's career blew up off of him covering AI, right? Like that's where it kind of blew up. So from that, even like I'm not saying he's some sort of like gangster or anything, right? Like nobody's scared.
But he has credibility.
But he has credibility in the sense that he's not going to back down off of his word. Whatever he says, he doesn't care. He's going to stand by it. Right. And a lot of players walk up to him and they're pissed off and they'll say things, but he'll stand by what he says. He's gotten into certain arguments over players with players.
Always. He's always yelling. He doesn't know how to talk in like a normal tone.
That's what he does.
Yeah, but it's something
over.
It's something we all need to learn. I feel like if you want to get any kind of views, you're like him. He has like 1 million subs on his podcast. I started like a year ago.
Yeah.
You know, he was even thinking of running for president.
Yeah, it seems like he's making a kind of a push towards that.
Yeah,
he's going on a lot of
like, maybe I'll run for president. He just threw it out there, and then now the headlines picked it up, and everyone was talking about it.
Yeah,
but
that to me is the equivalent of Kanye West saying it.
Yeah,
is it though? Because
no, because Kanye West, you know.
No, and I feel like you guys aren't familiar with his like. So over the last like 2 years, I want to say, he started talking politics a lot. Before that, he didn't feel comfortable talking it at all.
His podcast is just like him, right?
It's just him.
Yeah, he just talks to the camera.
Yeah, just talks to the camera, which is it's hard to do.
Yeah.
But like he's been going on CNN and a couple of these left wing shows, and he's been talking about politics and what he thinks about him. He's even been on PBD. Him and PBD are like friends somewhat. I think like they kind of give off that, or they allude to that, right? And I mean, I don't think he's going to run, but like people talked about it. For sure. Him even running for, president. He also got like what, $100 million deal from ESPN.
Yeah, he just got paid. That's why he's got to talk about LeBron, the forcing it.
Like he's getting paid as much as some players, even more now. Right? Like he's worth that money because when he talks, people listen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because you can't hear anything else.
The one thing we can give LeBron credit, like he is a good dad. Bronny never, like if you want to compare Jordan's son to him,
oh my God.
Seen what Jordan's son's up to?
Yeah. No, I mean, you could say a lot of things about LeBron. We could say like, he was kind of just snapped there, but you never know what's going on in somebody's life.
Yeah.
How their family was, bad days, good days. Everybody has them, right? And he walks onto the court and he sees somebody who just freshly finished talking shit about his son.
For sure.
Even if it was just about basketball or something, it can set anyone off. Everyone's human. At the end of the day, like that was just to what Simmer was saying. Stephen A is not somebody who's easily going to be intimidated.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the when it comes to this kind of stuff, there's lawsuits that will get involved.
Yeah.
You can't really just run up on people, especially if you're worth hundreds of millions. Like, me and my guys are here. Like, we're going to come for you. It doesn't work that way. And everyone knows that, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about your word and what you stand on, right? I feel like you shouldn't be talking about people's families and people's, wives and kids. You shouldn't generally be talking about that, even
if they weren't playing.
Yeah, but like Bronny's playing,
yeah,
right. So people are going to talk about it, especially sports shows. They're going to talk about
100%, man. That's the part I don't get.
And all of sports media is like negativity, like LeBron was saying, right?
Yeah.
But that's all media everywhere, always.
Yeah.
Right. If something is really good, they're going to be like, "Oh, he's such a great player," and that's it. If nobody refutes that, hey, he's not the best player ever, then it's not going to do anything. It's not going to go nowhere.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
But yeah, I think that's it for the stories. Let's move on to off topic.
Okay, so our first story is about Meghan Markle.
So she has a new show on Netflix called With Love, Meghan. So you know Meghan Markle, right? She's
Prince Harry?
Prince Harry's wife, the Duchess of Sussex.
The Suits girl, right?
Yeah,
she's on Suits.
Yeah.
So you know how they like step down from their royal duties, but they still carry their name, the title, like the Duchess of Sussex, and she like brings that up a lot in the show.
Really?
And the show just seemed very like curated, like they're trying to make it seem like she has this like perfect life. So it's just like interesting that they like brought it up.
She's trying to be like Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
Martha Stewart actually like had recipes and bacon. She'll just like add garnishes, make like vegetable platters. It seems so like she's acting.
Yeah, it seems
Is that the show you're watching?
Yeah.
Because like she has cool people on it. Like you're talking
She
about
had
Mindy
Mindy
Kaling, right?
Kaling on it, yeah.
My only thought was, I'm like, why is this girl cooking?
Like she'll get celebrity guests,
Yeah.
like other chefs, and like make stuff with
She's
them.
trying to do this whole lifestyle thing. She has like brands and stuff along those lines.
Okay.
But it's not even filmed at her house. Like they got a rental property to do it at, and like and
She says this is my house or something.
no, she says this is not my house. She's
not
making
my
it
house.
very clear that it's not her house. I don't know. It just all seemed very like
Wasn't that like she couldn't act and stuff while she was part of the royal family? I think that was.
I think so. I think I heard.
I think that was part of.
probably.
Makes sense.
They had a lot of rules.
Yeah, but okay.
But
Outside
you know,
of
like what Simmer was saying, so like the Sussex thing. So on it, Mindy Kaling was like, "Oh, Meghan Markle is going to In and Out or whatever." She's like, "It's so funny that you call me Meghan Markle and I'm a Sussex now."
oh
Like,
my god,
so cringy.
Wow.
God.
That's
feels
crazy.
like a irrelevant person trying to become relevant.
Yeah, right.
She just
Right.
needs to. She needs something, right? Like she left her royal duties. Like what else is she gonna do? Yeah, she
But
tried
it
to, I
did
think,
get
write a
renewed.
book.
It
Oh,
got
wow.
renewed for a second season.
Did you like it?
Okay.
I couldn't even get through an episode. I just watched the Mindy Kaling part because I like her.
Yeah.
But
I watched like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Killing.
Did you just say who's that?
Yeah, I don't know that.
It's not that big of a deal.
Oh, that person. Yeah. Okay.
She's in the office.
Yeah.
the brown girl.
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
like poor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really. I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, outside of Suits, did she even do anything else?
That's why he's saying like I think she went from Suits to Royal.
Right?
Yeah. And the new show's on. I wonder if she's gonna star in that.
Probably not.
No, I don't. It
Harvey Specter's gonna be on
Is
it.
he in it?
Yeah, they're saying he's gonna be in it for a bit.
But he's not the main guy.
No.
Yeah,
But he's gonna be in this one
Suits
too.
LA, right? Yeah. Looks interesting. Or it started, I think.
It's on.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it.
Suits was so redundant.
Really?
It was so good.
I
It
love
was so
Suits,
good,
man.
but towards the end,
Towards
doesn't it
the
just
end,
feel like they just kept doing the same thing again and again
Yeah.
and again?
Yeah.
But it's a law show.
Like if you think about it right now, I don't even remember how many
Grey's Anatomy,
seasons.
though. How redundant is that? And they're on like the 500th.
Yeah, I don't get that one.
I don't watch.
Never watched
It
it.
just,
Never
it
watched
just,
it,
Think
so-
about a hospital. Like, how much can you discuss? But somehow they
Yeah,
do
it's just
it.
different patient stories every
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
But I guess people like that.
Yeah, no, I was a big Grey's fan for a while, and then I just stopped. Even Suits too. I don't think I finished it.
Probably
Yeah.
because it was redundant.
I think it's because she left. I think I stopped watching it after.
Really? She was the talent? You're like,
liked
oh,
her.
Yeah.
I liked her in it.
really?
Yeah, like she was. Like
I
she
did
was
not
acting
watch
in
that
it.
show because of her. at all,
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Okay, a lot of guys watch that show because of her.
no, I think, yeah. But like the main talent on that show was obviously
Harvey.
Spectre
Yeah.
and the other, I forget his
Mike
name.
Ross?
I was going to call him E. Like Entourage. But yeah. What else we got?
We can talk about South Korea military.
Okay, so this story was interesting, a little strange, but during a military training exercise, 2 South Korean fighter jets dropped 8 bombs on a civilian village where people live.
What?
By accident. This is a clip of yeah. Yeah, so that's the reason. They're like one of the pilots entered the wrong coordinates
Damn.
and it released outside of the firing range. But it injured 15 people, and a lot of houses and buildings were damaged.
Yeah.
What the hell
Yeah,
is
but
going
nobody
on in
died.
South Korea?
Right.
That's wild.
You have these impeachments with with their president Yoon or whatever.
And then the new one got impeached.
Yeah, I think because
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
it was one of his guys, right?
Who?
that President Yoon, the new one got impeached because he wasn't like I don't know, prosecuting the other guy or something.
Didn't want to. There's like someone had to switch out.
Yeah, and then cherry on top of it all, the plane crash that South Korean.
Oh, yeah.
That was in South Korea as well, right? And now these guys are dropping bombs on their own
people.
Right?
That's crazy.
Like that's I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
That's not a little slip up.
Yeah, that's a big miscalculation.
Died?
Nobody died that they reported, but they said 15 people got.
Man, if that happened here, that would be wild, man. It'd be everywhere.
Well, you don't really see fighter jets flying around Canada.
Yeah.
And they're saying it was just a military exercise. So people were like, why were they using real bombs then?
Wow.
If it wasn't even for real.
Suspicious.
Maybe it wasn't just an exercise.
Stupid people doing stupid things. Okay, let's move on to, you guys heard about Gene Hackman, right?
Oh, I heard about this.
Yeah, so he was found dead with his wife and the dog, and everybody was like, so weird, right? The three of them.
Yeah.
They thought it was carbon monoxide. Turns out it wasn't. It's weird because she died from something called hantavirus. Basically, it's something you get from infected rodents. Their feces, when they come in, if they're infected with it, they can come and lay feces down, or urine, or spit. And I don't know if I don't know how she was in contact with it. So clearly they were in her house.
Yeah.
So she died of that, and then he dies like 9 days later. He had atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, so hypertensive, just like heart problems.
Yeah.
It was also really advanced Alzheimer's. So it's just weird how it happened. So she died because of that.
Yeah.
The way they found her is like she was just in the bathroom. There was like prescription pills like flowing everywhere. But they're saying the way she fell, it looked like the way she was landed, it looked like she just fell. So it didn't look like someone did that to her.
Okay.
Trying to say, and then he had Alzheimer's, so they're thinking he doesn't even know that she died.
Damn.
I think she was his caregiver. She's like 30 years younger than her.
That's
younger than
crazy.
him. So imagine that, like your caregiver, and you're like lost because it was very advanced Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And then he dies because of that.
Wow.
Then they had a dog who just recently had some sort of like surgery.
Yeah.
So the dog was in the crate and died.
Yeah.
So imagine its owners are dead. No one's feeding him, taking care of him. He dies. It's just such a sad story. Like imagine just dependence and that. That who do you have in that sort of situation? Who do you call?
When I first heard that story, I was like, as it was developing, like I thought like, oh, somebody did this for sure, right? Like how did people just die in a house? What the hell? Yeah, something along those lines. Like there's some sort of massive, but like thinking about that, and even as like you start to hear what happened.
Yeah.
She dies, and you're like, how does he die 9 days later?
Yeah.
And you're like, he had Alzheimer's?
Yeah.
Advanced Alzheimer's.
Yeah. So then
wild.
imagine even that. What a scary time.
So scary, right?
For like the person who like, is your main caregiver, right?
Yeah.
You're walking around a house.
And he's 95. He's not young.
And she's dead in the bathroom?
She was dead in the bathroom. So they were all dead in 3 different rooms.
Yeah.
So it was just such a weird.
They were all found together?
3 different rooms.
And the way that she died.
Yeah.
That's
so for 9 days, he was all by himself?
9 days all by himself.
Yeah. Well, nobody knew. He didn't obviously.
Alzheimer's.
That's what they're just saying.
Yeah.
Because of how advanced it was when they did his autopsy.
Yeah.
They're like, he probably didn't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then like even that, like being like not being able to know anything or remember anything, and then not knowing like where you are.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
how scary
crazy.
the last like 9 days of his life were.
Damn.
Yeah, man.
This guy was like a celebrated actor too, right?
Yeah, he was in Superman. He played Lex Luthor, like the original.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, like he lived a very long life. I'm not saying like
No, that's.
but going out like that.
I just thought there was some foul play.
Yeah.
But
No, the autopsies came back. I think it was today.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
No, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and even her getting it. Like there's just rodents.
What's that all about? Where does that come from? I thought that was related to the dog somehow.
Well, like
Dogs can bring it in. They did say that.
yeah. And then
So there was 2 dogs that were still alive in the house. It was just the one that had
What
like
the hell kind of house is this?
Well, they
3
had 3
dead
dogs.
and like animals.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the rodents, like if you're, they're saying saliva, urine, and feces, right? But like if a mouse or ever gets into your house, like you know how it is, right?
Yeah.
Like they'll cupboards and everywhere. They're running around.
Yeah,
right?
and they just
and you don't know, right? And especially somebody who's a little bit older, maybe didn't pick up on something, put it in some food or something. Right? It's not necessarily like, oh my god, like I wonder how that happened. Did she eat rat shit? Like, no, I don't think it's like that. I think it's just something that they don't realize, right, in terms of cleanliness, and something happens.
And the type of virus it is, though, it's like you have a 50% chance of dying. Like
that's wild. I've never even heard of this before.
Yeah, neither.
I had no clue.
But then, isn't it strange that he didn't contract the virus?
Maybe he wasn't being fed after she died. He just walked around his house, and he's like, I don't know.
But I read it's like easy to get it. Like you can even, if you touch something that has it, then you touch your face, like your mouth, like you can get the virus. So if they were living in such close quarters in the same house,
maybe he did have it. It was just maybe not like the top of the autopsy list. Because he had all these other major problems.
Yeah.
Let's move on to something lighter.
Okay.
So Moosehead, the beer.
Yeah.
So they have this crate that they're offering. It's called a presidential pack. Basically, it's a giant crate of 1,400 cans of beer for every single day Trump is in office.
What the hell?
To let you deal with that. The tariff is a Canadian company, right?
To get through it?
Yeah. So it costs about $3,400. But it's a lot of beer.
Yeah.
It's like so they're just promoting it that way, that it's called a presidential pack, because it's going to get you through his term.
That's hilarious.
Look at that massive pallet.
And they'll deliver it to your house like this. Only Ontario, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick.
I feel like I have friends who, if they could convince their wife, that'd be sitting in the garage right now.
For sure. Moosehead's Canadian?
Yeah.
Canadian lager, yeah.
Okay.
Look at that big ass moose.
Yes, a moose.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but so many things like isn't Canadian not even Canadian anymore?
No.
It's not.
Yeah. No. It's
that's the worst one.
Yeah.
Who bought it? I think it's Budweiser, right? Anheuser-Busch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, despite all this tariff stuff and everything that's going on outside of it, I think supporting buying Canadian is always important.
For sure.
For this country to grow, the one thing that we're realizing right now is
Everyone
that you should
has,
support Canada, right? And you should build businesses here. You should have some sort of incentive structure in place so people can't come around and do what everything that we're going through now. I feel like, I hope Canadians don't forget this once we're through this tariff crap.
Yeah.
Right? And like, okay, let's go back to not giving a crap about Canadian stuff, right? Yeah. I think for the kids of tomorrow, for Canadian kids of tomorrow, right? Like, I feel like you got to build things here.
For sure. These companies are jumping on it too.
I mean, I'm not buying 3,400 beers, but like, I'm down to support Canada wherever.
Yeah.
So just talking about tariffs further. So apparently there's been a lot of smuggling going on with eggs. The price of eggs.
Yeah, I heard the prices are wild.
Are like really high. So they're coming to Canada and they're going to Mexico to smuggle in eggs.
Wow.
Yeah, more than fentanyl is what they think that they're getting.
The U.S. is making more seizures of illegal eggs than fentanyl at its Canadian
so that's also
and
just
Mexican.
okay. So it's a headline. Once I read the article, like they actually can't. They can't tell you like how much fentanyl has been like, or how many eggs have been seized, but it is funny to think that that's what like hot commodity.
You remember how I was saying like find something that Trump needs?
Yeah.
Maybe it's military or something.
Eggs.
Invest in that. Yeah, maybe eggs, man. Maybe you're like, hey, listen, man, we're gonna deal with your egg problem. Can we do something here with these tariffs?
I've seen so many people online complaining about this though.
Yeah, like imagine being a baker.
Sucks. Imagine being anyone.
Dairy, because
We eat a
now
lot
he's
of
in with
eggs.
dairy, right?
Yeah.
Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not fun.
No.
Crazy. Get your borders under control, right?
Right.
All these eggs.
All these eggs just at the border now going bad. The ones that we need. Okay, let's move on.
So the FIFA World Cup is next year in 2026. So Toronto will host the opening match in the tournament in June. And then the FIFA president, he was on an interview and he kind of hinted at like Drake performing because they're going to do a halftime show for this tournament, which is, they've never done that before at a FIFA World Cup. And he there's a little clip of what he said, but it's mostly the interviewer that kind of like said it and he just kind of agreed.
I have a great idea for you for the halftime. I'm sorry I'm obsessed with this.
Tell me.
Drake. because you were at the Super Bowl. Kendrick Lamar dissed him at the Super Bowl. You got to
This lady's animated.
Yeah,
Big fan.
And look at this rap beef savant over here.
Actually,
This
Drake was
hip
with
hop.
us when we announced the host cities of.
You might be onto something here.
I should have his number still somewhere.
I expect to be sitting right next
That
to
has
you
Drake's
when you
number?
sign him on the dotted line. Anyway,
I like it.
Look at this girl trying to identify with her young fans.
She's like
Rap
Drake.
beefs. They're popular.
Drake, right?
But I didn't know that. He said he was at when they won the bid to have it. Drake was there. He has like a picture with this guy.
Yeah.
I saw something, and
I don't
that's where
remember
I think
that.
the rumor started spirling. I don't think she just developed that out of nowhere. This reporter,
Yeah, I
think
got
it's-
an idea.
Yeah, I think it was already out there, the idea of it. But that would be cool.
That would
Why
be
not?
cool.
Right?
Yeah. I didn't know FIFA did halftime.
No, Simmer just said they didn't.
Oh, okay.
They didn't
Doing
do
it this year
This is the first time.
But just on one game?
for one game. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
What-
which will take place on July 19th in New Jersey.
Are they talking about the final game?
World Cup's first.
I think it's the opening game of each because they're doing it in all three, right? In North America, Mexico, Canada. I think it's the opening game. The
So
final would make a lot more sense.
That would make a lot more sense if they're doing it if it's just the opening game. I don't think that has as much of an impact as a Super Bowl does.
a lot of eyes.
Yeah,
A
with
lot more eyes, right?
with soccer you get a lot more eyes.
Yeah.
Right, it's massive.
Yeah.
Right, in terms of internationally speaking, and Drake has
Would
an
be a
international
win.
audience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if Drake's on this comeback season, right, then he should. That is something that if I was his team, I'd be like, all right,
Yeah.
Like the last
do
World
this.
Cup had like 1.6 billion viewers
Yeah.
Hey, look at
versus
that.
the Super Bowl, which only had 123 million.
Yeah.
So it'd be a much bigger like audience,
much bigger, right? And Drake has international
6
reach.
billion is wild.
right?
Wild. Yeah, it's wild.
And it gives him a win. He can rap about it.
No, I don't think. I think Drake wouldn't rap about Kendrick here. I think
us
Drake
away.
has so many bangers in terms of because, like, to us, this rap beef is massive because Drake's from Toronto. And we're
Yeah,
from Toronto, so we're like, okay, support the hometown. But I feel like globally speaking, there's a bunch of people that kill.
That lady had no clue until the Super Bowl.
Do you think she knows one Kendrick Lamar track? She's just like, oh, look, he's
Watch
doing
her be the biggest fan.
She's like, cut the TV up. Cut the-
Okay, let's move on to the questions.
Yes, sure. So for the first question, I'll tell you guys 4 things, and then you have to choose how many you're willing to do from the listed numbers I give you. So, 1, how many McDonald's cheeseburgers are you willing to eat? 2, how many Krispy Kreme donuts are you willing to eat? 3, how many espresso shots are you willing to take? And 4, how many cans of pop are you willing to drink? And the numbers are 6, 12, 18, 24.
Okay. So 6, 12, 18, 24.
In how much time?
The numbers aren't so ridiculous that I don't know if I would care.
They're not that crazy,
I don't
but
want to take 24 shots of it.
Let's say
yeah,
in one
that's
day.
the one I was
in
thinking.
one day.
I think
one day, that's wild.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
So the 2 drink options would have to be on the lower end for me, I think.
What is it? Pop and espresso?
Wait, and there's what you said, Big Mac?
There's Big Mac.
Cheeseburger.
and
Cheeseburger.
There's so there's cheeseburgers, there's donuts, crispy
Donuts, I can smash 24.
So bad.
Donuts, I got no problem.
Donuts are 24 then, and then I guess cheeseburgers would be
Cheeseburgers third. Like
18 cheeseburgers
It's a
are
lot in the same day.
Donuts I can do. 18,
But 18 espresso shots or 18 cans of Coke or whatever, that's a lot too.
18 cans of Coke is hard too.
I would do espresso, Coke, cheeseburger, Krispy Kreme.
Can you do 8? You'll just be wired. But you think you can do 18 shots of espresso?
If I think I can do that.
Small shots.
Yeah, they are small. They're not like
No,
massive.
I think I would die.
Yeah.
How much? One shot of espresso is like how many coffees?
What are you talking about?
Is it
Like
caffeine wise?
I think it's similar
It's a lot
to
more
coffee.
caffeine.
No.
Oh, it's similar to
So much thought.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because if you're talking about a cup of espresso,
all I know for sure is I'm eating 24 donuts.
Yeah, 24 donuts for sure.
Yeah.
And then there was pop, cheeseburgers, and espresso, right?
Okay.
Espresso has to be
lower. 6 or 12.
You got to do 12 shots of no, you can do 6 shots and 12 cans of Coke. And
It says so espresso has more caffeine per ounce, but because the coffee is bigger, there's more caffeine in a cup of coffee.
Okay. So we'll do 18 shots of espresso.
Damn.
I'm not doing that.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
Krispy Kreme.
Yeah, Krispy Kreme is 24.
That's 24. Yeah.
So 18 cheeseburgers in one day?
I think that's too much. I would do 18 shots of espresso, 12 cheeseburgers, 6 Cokes.
I'm down. Like,
yeah,
to do that.
that is what it has to be.
I think that's the only way to go.
Yeah.
Really? I think you're underestimating how much an espresso shot would do to you.
I can do
18 espresso shots. I think you could do.
They're like
I mean, if it's me, I think I can pound back 18 cheeseburgers, I think.
All right, we can.
What if they were junior chickens? I could pound those back.
18 is a lot. That's all.
18 is a lot. After 24
I think you've
donuts.
come home with like 20 Big Macs.
Maybe.
Okay, and we'll do a blind ranking. So rank these types of cookies without knowing what comes next. There's 5.
Okay.
So number one
for all.
chocolate chip cookies.
A good chocolate chip.
1. Yeah.
That's 1.
Yeah, I would probably put it 1 too, but I know. Oreos.
Oh,
I like Oreos.
I like them too.
What are we leaving open though?
I would put that as 2.
Oreos 2? I put Oreos at 2.
I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, let's go 2.
Okay.
1, 2 right off the bat. Can only get easier.
Oatmeal raisin.
5.
5?
5?
I don't hate them
I don't
either.
hate them.
I like all cookies.
Let's go 4. This is easy. Yeah, I'll eat all those cookies.
4?
4,
Yeah.
sure.
White chocolate macadamia.
3?
3.
Okay.
I like them all.
Yeah.
I'll eat them all in any order.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last one, 5, is wafers.
Oh,
Okay,
that
perfect.
is 5.
We
That
killed
list
it.
is fire.
I think that list is
we nailed that
perfect.
list. Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect list.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys just love cookies.
I would eat all those.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
I'm down with the wafer too.
Yeah, I like
not the
wafers.
best.
Yeah.
What about the ones with chocolate in
Yeah,
them?
They're not that bad.
good.
Yeah, all right. And with that, remember, we're not experts on anything, and you guys should always do your own research, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Take care, everybody.